World News Tonight.
Massive blast. Suspected suicide blast rips through southwest Pakistan, claiming the lives of rally goers. Card fraud. Sydney police uncovers an elaborated card scheme that defrauded thousands of Australians. Shots fired. Dutch gunman opens fire at a local hospital in Rotterdam, leaving several dead. Grand Gala. The Mid-Autumn Festival Gala prepares to provide a visual feast to audiences across the globe.
This is Other Derana World News Tonight. Reporting from Colombo, here's Winoja De Silva.
A very good evening. You are joining us on World News this Friday night. Tonight, we begin with a developing story in Pakistan. Pakistan has been rocked by a deadly blast again. At least 30 people were killed and dozens more injured after a blast tore through a religious procession in Pakistan's restive Balochistan province, in what authorities have described as a suicide attack. The explosion occurred in the Mastang district of the southwestern province as people were gathering to celebrate the birthday of the Prophet Muhammad. Mastang's assistant commissioner confirmed that the explosion was a suicide attack and that at least 40 people were injured. There has been no claim of responsibility for the explosion. The critically injured have been transferred to hospitals in the province's capital, while others are being treated in a local hospital in Mastang. The authorities further stated that rising death tolls are to be expected. Balochistan, Pakistan's largest province by area, has seen a spate of attacks in recent months. Iraqi Christians once driven from their village by ISIS are blaming another enemy for an inferno that killed more than 100 of their friends and relatives at a wedding this week.
A packed memorial service for the victims of a deadly fire at an Iraqi wedding celebration took place on Thursday. At a funeral the day before, the groom was among the crowds of people weeping. Calls for accountability were growing in the Christian town of Hamdaniya as grief-stricken mourners watched their loved ones being buried. More than 100 people died and at least 150 were injured on Tuesday evening in an inferno that government officials have said was enabled by a lack of safety and security measures and the use of highly flammable materials in the building. In a sermon interrupted at times by the wails of women clad in black, a priest at Al-Tahira Church told mourners that Iraq had been united in grief, but he criticised officials for their corruption. It was a theme repeated by a victim's relative, M. Noor.
It is not okay for one person to get burned because of a lack of safety measures, let alone tens of people. Iraqi blood is spilled so easily. There have been so many accidents over the years, like the boat that sunk in Mosul in 2019, and the parks that lack safety measures. It is not about a certain area. It is the whole state that has no laws to protect people.
Criticism of a lax approach to public safety is common in Iraq. The state has been weakened by recurring conflict since the 2003 US invasion. Services are impaired by pervasive corruption, for which few senior officials are ever held to account. The tragedy has revived memories of deadly fires that swept through 2 hospitals in Iraq in 2021, killing at least 174 people in all that were at the time blamed on negligence, lax regulations and corruption. Government officials have announced the arrest of 14 people over Tuesday night's fire, including the owners of the events hall, and promised a swift investigation.
Over in the Netherlands, a gunman killed 3 people in the Dutch city of Rotterdam. He shot a local woman and her daughter in their home. Then he stormed into a classroom of Rotterdam's University Hospital and opened fire on a male teacher.
Dutch police have arrested a 32-year-old suspect in the shooting death of 3 people in Rotterdam on Thursday. Police said a gunman fatally shot a 39-year-old woman and her 14-year-old daughter in their home, then set the building on fire. The girl was taken to hospital, where she died from her injuries.
Na de schietpartij aan het Heiman-Dullardplein.
Police spokesperson Fred Westerbeek said the suspect then made his way to Rotterdam Medical Center University Hospital. Once there, he entered a classroom and shot a 43-year-old male teacher, who also died from his injuries. A hospital employee was at work when the shooting took place.
We heard that there was a shooting. First, we all had to stay inside, and then suddenly, we all had to go outside. I was working with children, and we had to get them all out of the consulting rooms, and then we ran outside.
The suspect was arrested near the hospital, where he also started a fire. Westerbeek said he was apprehended with a firearm in his pocket and was wearing a bulletproof vest. He added that the suspect was a student who acted alone and called his actions targeted, but did not provide a motive.
The Republican-led impeachment inquiry of the US President Joe Biden detailed foreign payments to members of his family in their first hearing, and he failed to provide evidence that he had personally benefited. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden stepped up his attack on potential presidential rival Donald Trump. He also stated that his predecessors' Make America Great Again or MAGA movement is endangering American democracy.
The Republican-led House Oversight Committee kicked off its first hearing in its impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden on Thursday. But Republicans failed to provide any new information related to foreign business ventures by the president's troubled son, Hunter Biden, nor did they provide evidence that the Democratic president had personally benefited.
We were going to present evidence.
What evidence? There's no evidence witnesses. There are no fact
just
witnesses.
Sit back and let the American people see the hearing and let the American people decide.
All right.
Instead, GOP members only alleged that Biden lied about family members' business dealings.
For years, President Biden has lied.
Here's chairman of the committee, James Comer.
He lied by telling the American people that there was an absolute wall between his official government duties and his personal life. Let's be clear. There was no wall.
Democrats on the panel refuted those claims, with Representative Jamie Raskin saying there was no evidence of wrongdoing.
The committee has received 12,000 pages of bank records. Here they are, right in front of us, printed double-sided, and not a single page shows a dime going to President Joe Biden.
2 of the 4 GOP witnesses on Thursday admitted that while the panel had enough evidence to open an impeachment inquiry, they did not have enough evidence to justify impeachment charges.
This is an embarrassment. An embarrassment to the time and people of this country.
Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez argued that Republicans had no standing to open the inquiry.
We are wasting our time. When we talk about a threshold of an impeachment inquiry, was there a House floor vote that had a majority of members of Congress that opened an impeachment inquiry into President Clinton?
There was.
There was. Was there a full House floor vote opening an impeachment inquiry into President Trump?
In 2019.
Is there one here for this one?
Not for this one.
It is unclear if House Republicans, who have a narrow 221 to 212 majority, would have the votes at the end of the inquiry to support actual impeachment. But even if that vote succeeded, it is highly unlikely that the Senate, where Democrats hold a 51 to 49 majority, would vote to remove Biden from office.
Let's take you to Australia now. A sophisticated credit card skimming operation worth an estimated $3.7 million has been thwarted in Sydney, Australia. 2 Romanian men revealed to be a part of a globally recognized criminal network were arrested and charged for their involvement in this high-stakes cybercrime.
Hundreds of fake credit cards, but the details are real, stolen from victims all over Sydney. These are the men accused of being behind it, arrested in a raid at Walleye Creek yesterday. Allegedly caught red-handed, embedding details onto 1,500 cards with the potential to access more than $3.7 million in cash withdrawals or purchases.
We also found 1,000 financial details on computers with matching PIN codes.
Details skimmed from ATMs all over Sydney, including George Street and Haymarket, Hurstville, Ashfield, Chatswood, North Sydney and Bondi Junction.
Vulnerable communities and the elderly are still relying on cash, which is why this type of activity is alarming.
Police allege the Romanian nationals travelled to Australia on fake passports in March with the goal of cloning cards. They lived undetected in the community until detectives say they tracked them down with the help of the AFP, the US Secret Service, Interpol and Romanian police.
They are part of a global criminal group.
Detectives also seized luxury goods and $50,000 in cash.
Everything is getting more camouflaged and everything is getting more sophisticated.
Police now speaking to banks who will contact the estimated 3,500 victims to break the news their details are in the hands of an international criminal syndicate.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Latest on the road to the White House now. Donald Trump is looking past the Republican presidential primary by skipping the second GOP debate to speak to striking auto workers in Michigan. Trump diverted attention away from his rivals and signaled that he has all but turned to focus to the general election.
Donald Trump heads to Michigan in a bid to win over blue-collar voters during the auto workers' strike. He toured the facility of an auto parts supplier just outside Detroit before addressing current and former union members and throwing jabs at the president.
Yesterday, Joe Biden came to Michigan to pose for photos at the picket line. But it's his policies that send Michigan auto workers to the unemployment line. He only came after I announced that I would be here. You know, he announced quite a bit later.
The parallel visits are yet another sign of a potential Trump versus Biden rematch in 2024. Trump won Michigan in 2016, but lost the state to Biden 4 years later. And while working-class voters had helped propel Trump to the White House, they favoured Biden in 2020. Trump is seeking to capitalise on discontent over Biden's handling of the economy, pointing to his clean energy agenda and the embrace of electric vehicles, which he says will lead to lost jobs. The Auto Workers Union president, however, has been critical of Trump's visit.
I don't think he cares about working class people. I think that he cares about the billionaire class. He cares about the corporate interest. I think he's just trying to pander to people and say what they want to hear.
The United Auto Workers is pushing for higher wages, shorter work weeks and assurances that electric vehicle jobs will be unionised. Biden says he's the most pro-union president in US history and on Tuesday became the first US president to join striking workers. The union backed Biden in 2020 but has yet to make an endorsement for 2024.
The self-declared Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh will cease to exist from next year. The ceasing happens only after its president signed a decree dissolving state institutions following its defeat by Azerbaijan.
It's been at the heart of one of the world's longest and bloodiest conflicts in recent history. But as of January 1st, 2024, the self-declared Nagorno-Karabakh Republic will dissolve its state institutions and cease to exist, as per a decree signed by its separatist president. The enclave's hopes of independence have been effectively vanishing since Azerbaijan's lightning offensive last week, with more than half the population making the journey to Armenia since. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan says the entire 120,000-strong population is expected to clear out in the coming days, an overwhelming number for the Armenian government, which has previously said it's prepared to take in some 40,000 families.
And once you are opening the books, everybody wants to leave. And it will be a huge burden for the Republic of Armenia, which is populated of 3 million and hosting more than 100,000 people coming in, with the new refugees. It will be a huge burden for them.
Nagorno-Karabakh has been run by ethnic Armenian separatists since winning a bloody war in the 1990s that claimed tens of thousands of lives. It's officially recognized as a part of Azerbaijan since the fall of the Soviet Union, but neither Baku nor Armenia has supported its claim to independence.
Over in North Korea, tensions between North Korea and the United States continue to heighten as Pyongyang's parliament establishes its push for a nuclear arsenal as basic law of the state.
North Korea's parliament has enshrined nuclear force in its constitution in response to Seoul-Washington drills. According to state news agency KCNA on Thursday, the Supreme People's Assembly during a two-day meeting presided over by leader Kim Jong-un unanimously approved what was referred to as a crucial agenda item to establish Pyongyang's nuclear force policy and basic state law. This comes a year after North Korea adopted nuclear policy as legislation, and now it has included it in the highest law of the land, the Constitution. Kim was reported to have praised the remarkable progress made this year in enhancing the regime's defense capability and emphasized the importance of continuing to increase nuclear weapon production. He also criticized the United States for operating the Nuclear Consultative Group with the aim of using nuclear weapons against North Korea, and a series of provocations such as resuming large-scale joint military exercises with South Korea. The trilateral military alliance between the US, South Korea and Japan was labeled as Asia's NATO, and Kim urged officials to strengthen solidarity with nations opposing the United States and the West's hegemonic strategies. Kim returned home last week after a trip to Russia, where a summit with Russia's President Vladimir Putin led to strengthened cooperation in various fields such as military and economy, heightening confidence in the alliance as anti-American nations.
Michael Gambon, the Irish-born actor, knighted for his storied career on the stage and screen, has died. He was 82 at the time of his demise. He went on to gain admiration from a new generation of moviegoers with his portrayal of Hogwarts headmaster Albus Dumbledore in Harry Potter films.
It was foolish of you to come here tonight, Tom. The orders are on their way.
Michael Gambon may be best known for his role in Harry Potter, but he leaves behind a prolific body of work spanning decades, genres and generations. Gambon was born in 1940 in a working-class neighbourhood of Dublin. He moved to London with his family just after the Second World War.
I was Irish, and then I heard people talking English like that, you know. So I started talking like that. Oh, hello, so lovely to see you.
A local socialist theatre was his introduction to acting. He then became a founding member of the National Theatre in London. That was the start of one of the most prolific careers on the West End. For his roles on London stages, he was nominated for a record 13 Olivier Awards, winning 3. At the same time, he was taking on challenging parts in film and television. He won critical acclaim for his performances in groundbreaking works like the BBC series The Singing Detective.
Look, this is a dream.
Always a critical darling, it wasn't until his mid-60s that Michael Gambon became a global star.
But in the end, only one will go down in history.
That's when he took on the role of wise wizard Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter films.
You put on all that costume and the makeup with the beard on, the wig, and suddenly that sort of takes over the image of the character, the half-moon glasses, lots of gold rings, and it's infectious.
After his death at age 82, the theatre and film worlds are mourning him as one of the greatest actors of his generation.
Welcome back. Hong Kong's Dragon Dance wows spectators. For more on that story and more, let's take you around the world in a minute. A huge ornate straw-stuffed dragon danced through the narrow streets of Hong Kong, wowing thousands of spectators as the century-old ritual returned after a 4-year hiatus. Chinese embassies in several European countries have hosted a series of receptions to celebrate the 74th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. US Army Private Travis King will be undergoing medical evaluations, including for his mental health, as he arrived at a US military hospital after being expelled from North Korea. Spanish soccer club Barcelona are undergoing investigation for suspected active bribery as part of a probe into suspected corruption spanning 2 decades at the refereeing committee. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar. The meeting comes just hours after Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he was sure that Blinken would raise the murder of a Sikh separatist leader. That is all we have for you on World News Tonight. If you missed any of today's programs, you can always rewatch by catching us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Derana English. We are leaving you tonight in Sichuan, China, as the Mid-Autumn Festival Gala, produced by the China Media Group, is set to impress audiences with its breathtaking stage design. Thank you for watching. Good night.